So welcome to our exercise ball class. Firstly, before we get started, a few things to note. If you are buying a ball, you need to make sure that it has the British kite for safety. Also, if you've never used a ball before, then it's worth just wedging the ball into a corner or against the wall just until you get to the point where you feel kind of confident using it. Okay. As you gain more confidence, you can just slightly roll the ball away and then go from there. So today we're going to look at different ways of using the ball. So a ball can be quite simple, quite easy exercises, right through to quite challenging and tough exercises. And it's just looking at the versatility of it all and having some fun with it, hopefully. So the first thing we can try is get sitting on the ball and making sure that you're comfortable. So when you're sitting on the ball, your legs should be parallel. So if your knees are above your hips, then the ball might be a bit small, or it needs to be inflated a little bit more. If you feel like you're going to fall off the ball because you're sitting too high, then you may need a smaller ball or just deflate it a little bit. Okay. So a nice way to get used to the ball is to just gently bounce up and down. And this can actually be quite relaxing for your kind of back muscles. If you're in the midst of a flare-up, sometimes this can be quite a nice exercise to do that's not too strenuous on your back. So you can bounce up and down, or you can bounce from side to side, as Jane is demonstrating, or you can even bounce forward and back. Or if you like, you can bounce around in a circle. And then we can look at more of a mobility exercises just for specifically around your back and your pelvis. So in this sitting position, we can maybe do some pelvic tilting. So you're letting the ball roll you forwards and then letting it roll you backwards. And the nice thing about the ball, it actually facilitates the movement. So it helps the movement, and it can be a bit more comfortable than doing a pelvic tilt without a ball. Obviously, if you want to make it a bit more challenging, you can take your hands off the ball. If you want to make it a bit easier, you can leave your hands on the ball. It's totally up to you. So if you come back to the middle, we can then try some side-to-side rocking as well. And you can start with small movements, and then you can slowly build up. The range that you do is totally up to you and what feels comfortable. You might find the more you do it, the more range that you kind of get. And if we come back to the middle, we can then do some big circles. So again, we can start with small little circles, and then you can build up to bigger circles. This is where you get the strange noises coming from the ball. And then alternate directions. So there's some really nice mobility exercises. So we can then go on to challenge some of your kind of core muscles and challenge your kind of balance a bit as well. So in this sitting position, you need to make sure that your feet are nice and firmly planted on the floor. To start with, have your hands on the ball just to kind of get your balance. And all we're going to try and do is lift your heel off the ground. Okay. And what we're trying to maintain is your kind of upright posture and not be too wobbly. And then alternate to the other side. So if that feels okay and you want to make it a little bit harder, we can try and lift a whole foot off the floor. So you can either do a few seconds either side, or you can go for a longer hold. It's totally up to you and what you feel happy doing. You'll probably find that one side is easier than the other. And if you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, you can lift one leg up and then maybe just bend and straighten the elbows. And say the goal is to try and stay on top of the ball. If at any time you feel that you're about to go or you're going to fall off, then just put your hands and your feet down and steady yourself. And then we can make it harder still by trying to do a big clap above the head whilst lifting one foot off the floor. And alternating sides as well. Okay, so there's some nice exercises that we can do in sitting. We can also do some exercises in standing with balls against the wall. Okay. So we're just going to pick the ball up, put the ball against the wall and do a small press up. So obviously we can do this exercise without a ball, but because the ball's a little bit more wobbly, it makes it a little bit harder, but it's not quite as hard as doing like a press up maybe on the floor. It also generally feels a bit nicer around the wrists as well. If you want to make it a bit easier, then take your feet a little bit closer to the ball. If you want to make it harder, then take your feet a bit further away from the ball. Whatever feels comfortable to you. So we can use the ball for mobility as well. So with the ball again still on the wall, we can roll the ball up towards the ceiling and then slowly roll it back down again. So you can go all the way up and then halfway down, or if you like to, you can come all the way down into a squat. So you can see that you're getting a good full range of movement through this entire exercise, but the whole time is supported by the ball. And again, you can choose whatever range that you feel comfortable doing. So you can stay with going up and down through the middle, or you can maybe try and take the ball out to the side and challenge your balance a little bit more, or kind of feel the stretch over one side of your body versus the other. Lovely. Okay, so if we bring the ball back to the middle, if I get you to turn yourself around, Jane, so the ball's resting in the small of your back. So from here we can do some squats or some dips, so that your back's nice and supported by the ball and it's taking some of your weight. So then when you come down to bend your knees, it feels like the ball's actually helping the movement. And again, you can go as far down as you like. You could do large dips like Jane's doing here, or you could do little small ones. It's totally your choice on how you feel. You could also bring this into a calf raise. So as you come up from the squat, so you squat yourself down, that's it. And as you come up, coming up onto your toes. Lovely. Okay, so there's just a few exercises that you can do with a ball against a wall. So now we can show you a few exercises that you can do with the ball on the floor. So if we come back to the mat, and if you lay yourself down on your back. Lovely. So again, with the ball on the floor, we can work on your mobility a little bit. So we can roll the knees from side to side. This is also a good exercise for your tummy muscles as well. but again in a nice supported position. Obviously, if you wanted to make it a little bit harder, you could take your forearms or your arms off the floor. Again, it's just reducing that base of support, but it's guided by you and what you feel able to do. Just remembering the whole time to try and breathe, so not holding your breath. Okay. So if we come back into the middle, if you just push the ball away with your feet a little bit, that's it, so your feet are just resting on the ball. From there we can work on kind of strengthening around your hamstrings and getting mobility around your hips. So if you just dig your heels into the ball and just roll the ball towards you, so you get a nice stretch around your hips. And again, you go as far or do as much or as little as you like. So if you bring the ball towards your bottom, that's it, we can come into a kind of small bridge. So from here, all we're doing is trying to pull your tummy muscles in a little bit and just lift your bottom off the ground. So obviously you can come up as high as Jane here, or it could be that you just put pressure through the ball and you just try and hover your bottom off the floor. Totally up to you and where you feel you're at. You should feel it working around your tummy, but also potentially in your bottom as well. Again, there are a number of ways of making this a bit more tricky. So you could either roll the ball so it's further away from you, because your base of support has reduced. You then become a bit more wobbly and you're having to work a bit harder around your tummy muscles. Alternatively, you can try and lift one foot slightly off the ball. But again, I'd start with that, with the ball a little bit closer, and then try and lift the leg once you're up. So, but again, it makes it some bit harder. And just remembering to breathe. Okay. So we can now do maybe some shoulder exercises with the ball. So if you bring the ball up, so the ball's in your hands, that's it, and from there we can always do like a reverse press up, so you're lowering the ball down to your chest and then you're pushing it away again. This works the muscles around your chest, but it also works with the kind of the joint position, so we call proprioception, or kind of your balance for your shoulders. So from there, once you're at the top, you can then move the ball backwards and forwards, so over your head and then towards your knees. And you'll find that this works obviously around your shoulders and chest, but your grip strength and your forearm muscles are working quite hard to hold on to the ball as well. Lovely. So we can challenge your kind of the balance around your shoulders a little bit more by trying to balance the ball on one hand. Which is trickier than it looks. If you've got a smaller ball, it's slightly easier. If you've got a large ball, it becomes a bit harder. And you can swap sides. And again, you can make this easier by putting your elbow down on the floor to give you a bit more support, or you can make it harder by trying to throw and catch. The options are endless, but it's quite fun to try and do. Okay, so enough of that one. We can then come into all fours and do a few exercises on our knees. And obviously if kneeling is uncomfortable for you, then you can use like a cushion or a pillow. Alternatively, you don't have to do these at all because you can do it in one of the other positions as well. So from here we can do a nice stretch by just rolling the ball away and feeling that stretch through your shoulders and your back. And if it feels comfortable to you, you could just gently roll the ball from kind of side to side. Okay, and coming back up. We can also lay on the ball on your front. So you just pop the ball against your stomach and just rest over it, which again can feel quite comfortable. We can also look at strengthening some of the lower back muscles in this position here. So if Jane, you pop your hands on your temples, as you breathe in, just lifting your kind of upper chest off and then lowering back down again. Lovely. We can also go into a kind of a supported plank. Again, you need to feel fairly confident on the ball when rolling on it. But as you roll yourself onto it, you're popping the hands on the floor in front of you. That's it. Obviously with this, when you're launching yourself, just mind your head on radiators or other pieces of furniture. Again, you can have your hands quite close to the ball, so it makes it a wee bit easier. Or if you've got the space, you can walk your hands further away, so it's like a plank, but you're just on the ball. Lovely. So there's just like a few examples of some exercises that we can do on balls. There are loads that you can do, but there's just a few select exercises that maybe you'd like to try at home. Thank you.